Welcome back to the Downing Cut. My next guest is a Pacific Northwest filmmaker who does it all: directing, cinematography, editing, producing, and somehow finds time to have over 10 projects in the pipeline. You may know him as a cinematographer, but welcome back, Matt McKinney, to the Downing Cut. How you doing, Matt?
Doing good. That's amazing. We should just get like cheers going every time somebody like walks behind somebody. Just be like, yay!
That's awesome. You've been
Uh,
busy, man. So let's just dive in here. We talked probably in August 2025, and kind of dove into what you're about. Now, you wear nearly every hat on the production: a director, cinematographer, an editor, a colorist. Which role do you find the hardest to let go of when collaborating with others?
so my biggest thing that I know I'm definitely never gonna let go of is I'm always gonna be a cinematographer at the end of the day. That's my driving force that'll go to the grave with me. So that's fantastic. And then as far as everything else goes, it's really hard to let that go when my mindset points me to helping out with logistics and whatnot, which has been like the biggest thing over the last like 6 months to a year, is that everybody looks to me like, yeah, you know how to do this and everything, right? And I'm like, yeah, but there's a fine line to that, guys. That's not what I'm known for. I just am familiar with the context of knowing the elements of it.
When you say logistics, like going into like a producer role?
Yes, it's been a very interesting point of doing that for both myself and as trying to get the skill set and knowledge necessary with getting my company up and off the ground, which I'm fingers crossed. Hopefully, it's going to happen in a couple months to finally get registered because I've had it for the last 4 to 6 months as a legitimate thing that I wear as a proud branding moment, but
Yeah.
it takes a bit to get it like properly registered, even beyond the financial bit, like making a name recognition for itself.
Can you share a little bit about that, your process and the steps you have to go through to have a company?
So yeah, for sure. I with my company, the way that I envision it and whatnot is that its final its final form effectively is going to have a lot of subsidiaries based to it, but has an umbrella that encompasses all of it. So I started with the thing that obviously is going to be the umbrella to encompass all of it, which is the growing and now fabled media outlet 365 entertainment. So it's been a really legitimate thing that I was proud of for the first time when I got a design put out for that. I caved. The thing that was always getting me is I was trying to find designs that were going to merge, like what's the perfect thing to encompass everything of entertainment all to one. And so I went back and forth with a couple ideas. I kept bouncing off of other ideas. And when I finally landed on it, I was like, this very animalistic type of design, but encompasses every form of media there is, from sound, lighting, cinematography, the visuals, the post. I was just like, I did it. It was perfect. So my process for that has been um, one, owning the title and everything is the number one thing right away. So like honing in on making sure that has a name recognition for itself. The second has been getting a really good kick-ass design and everything to really promote and make it stand out. And then kind of coming back to the logistics end has just been trying to get it registered through either the right website to go to the state, or if I do registration directly, so that it has enough of an image at that point to say, oh, this is legit, and we can actually, benefit and like do any form of compensation and whatnot on the monetary scale that'll start scaling it to what it needs to be so that I can start looking at those subsidiaries, like one dedicated for video, one dedicated for pure cinematography, one dedicated for lighting, sound, post, and so that everything can encompass into one, so that I always am aware of having multiple revenue streams and whatnot when that time comes, so that I'm like prepared to go out into the world and be like, hey, you bring us on, here's everything at your disposal at this point.
Oh, that's awesome. So you said 360 media, is that what it's called?
Media Outlet 365 Entertainment.
Media Outlet 365 Entertainment. And then so you have this umbrella, and then underneath that, is it just one company name, or you can have separate little company names? Are you talking about just a branch of skill sets that fall underneath the company?
So there's the umbrella that has its name, and then the subsidiaries will have their own isolated individual names, which
Okay.
anybody out there that looks carefully enough, because I only did this in one spot right now, you have to look very carefully on Facebook. You'll see two of the other names out there, but they're the only spot that I put them because I want to make sure that when I have them completely under my umbrella, that their image pops out in such a massive way that it's like, oh, and it's being represented by this. And I'm like, yeah.
Interesting. Wow. So do you have to, do you get an LLC, S corp, C corp? What direction did you go in that aspect?
So the direction that I'm aiming to go, because I know what I want it to be and everything, and I'd rather not have to reestablish it for when I do this, is Media Outlet 365 Entertainment. The goal behind that is I want that to serve as effectively a C corp, but from all the research that I do and everything, and all the litigation and whatnot that I get from free consultations and whatnot from attorneys and everything like that, for when we get to that point to be able to register it, they're like, see, there's a clever twist on this though, where in legal jargon, as they put it, you can register as a C corp, but they really want you to benefit from the tax part of it. So they say, if you register as a C corp, but you put your tax statement under S corp, it benefits because you're only being taxed as that individual and not a branching thing if you get a staff and whatnot. And then you have to start regulating around that. And I was like, well, dang, that's actually a really clever bit. Jesus, that's really dynamic. I never would have guessed that. I would have thought there would have been some sort of like legal loophole that says, nope, you can't do it. But they're like, no,
No.
the state inspires you to do that apparently. So I
It,
was like, dang.
yeah. We did that with the Downing Duo LLC. Same thing. And I went through all the pains. I mean, good luck to you. That's all I gotta say is
Yeah,
good
yeah,
luck to
right. Yeah, nope. It's gonna be a thing. Like I'm sheltering out to a point now where I'm like, I take the realist side of me that like wants to channel all of it and say, okay, I can have a good skill set about it if I learn it, but I need to acknowledge the point that especially if what I want it to be, I've said, okay, there needs to be attorneys, there needs to be people that understand that so that they can always be explaining it and not just me have to like shuffle it back and forth and be like,
you. Yeah.
did I do the right thing on this today? And then somebody now having that person to bounce off of them, they're like, yeah, you're good. Or no, you need to re-evaluate this so that this falls in line with the standards and regulation. I'm like, oh, good. We're going to make that happen.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was beginning of 2025. I got contracted. Different. It wasn't filmmaking, but it was a. So my background's learning and development, so I got into learning and development.
Hmm.
And they said you have to have a company. I'm like, oh, we got the Downing Duo. So I did the Downing Duo, and then from exactly what you just said, in order to employ myself, I employed myself as an employee, and then paid myself a reasonable rate. But then when it came to tax time, I would tax the LLC as an S corp, so that you didn't have to pay the self-employment tax, which is higher. And it worked out, and so I did it, but it wasn't fun. And then trademarking our logo. Oh my gosh, I don't know if we must have gotten taken advantage of a little bit, because a company came out and said, hey, we can do this and that, pay us a fee. So I paid them the fee, because when you go into like the states or the government's issue with trademarking, it is so confusing. I'm like, what does any of this stuff mean? And we just went through, iteration after iteration of how to submit information, which was the hardest part, because I'm like, well, we're same thing: filmmaking, graphic design, learning and development. How do we use our logo? And most of it is, you would think people are like, when you trademark a graphic, it's for selling the graphic, and I'm like, we're not selling it. I mean, unless it's on the film, but I mean, we have. If I buy a bunch of these and sell them, maybe that works. But I wasn't at that point. We're like, we're not,
Hmm.
we're not. selling merchandise per se, but it was a hassle. So I think like after what $1,000, we're like, okay, finally got it done, got approved. Like it's just it was painful. It was just one of the most painful things I've been through. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But
It's yeah.
so going back, let's talk about cinematography. At what moment in your career made you feel like you really were a cinematographer?
So almost kind of similar to when I highlighted this last time, but with more events that came up recently, is I've been reminded with elevating my skill set and everything now too, that I'm looking at it now and I keep coming to this realization of like, I'm looking at certain shots and without fail, it's like my brain doesn't have to really sit on it anymore. It just says, oh my gosh, you like that's some magic you created right there, and you didn't even intentionally see it that way at all. It just kind of happened that way. And then there's other times where I very like thought out and planning it through and everything like that. And I think to like other roles and everything, I'm like, this is so weird. How did this all like just transpire this way? And then I'm just like, and then I'm like, well, I guess I've got the planning part down so well now that I'm just like, unintended consequences are sometimes the best successes of the of the visual output that I want. And I'm just like, and then I keep like growing and learning like different elements that are like either shortcuts or we can pull back the curtain on other elements that point to, oh, we didn't even need to worry about that. It was just a natural element that was already there. I'm like, yay.
So let me ask you this, because when I see movies, you always see the wide shot, establishing shot, then you see a medium, and then you do a close up. I mean, it's kind of the rhythm of going into it, and then you have the rule of thumb, right? The 180-degree rule, not crossing the line, and you have these typical standards, if you will. Are you the type? Are you like on sticks, or are you holding the camera? What is your method of madness?
So my madness goes in a lot of different directions when it comes to this now. The thing that I'm probably the most proud of in both senses now is that I've lucked out toward the end of last year and finally getting the original plan in play that I wanted, which is having a camera completely dedicated to sticks and one that's ready to be picked up and go handheld or be put on any sort of rig
Oh,
like that.
nice.
So
Yeah,
literally every time I go on a set now, I preface to people, I'm like, hey, if I'm the only one here, because I've gotten to a point in my career now where I'm fortunate to meet the people that I know that sometimes we're on really expansive sets where sometimes and we didn't even plan it this way, going back to that almost, where I assess the environment and I'm like, wait a second, do we have like 5 or 6 DPs here? What's going on? So it gets to that point where I luck out in some of those situations like that because we're always bouncing ideas off each other. Like that's the one consistent thing that I like compared to like certain environments that try to push you into a corner and say it's like, well, no, now this is how it has to be. We had to limit ourselves, or people get so
yeah.
competitive about it versus us and my team and the other teams that I work with. They're just like, if you have something you want to go try and experiment with, I welcome it. Go do it. Like we'll
That's awesome.
integrate it. Yeah, I'm like we'll integrate it into the story and it'll play out like that. And I'm like, oh, well, shoot. All right, this is a good turn of
Yeah.
events. So I play off
Are
of
you
that.
more of a planner? Do you like to storyboard your shots, or do you like just having a foundation structure and then kind of being on set and improvising?
So I find with some of the shorter projects that I do, I find it interesting if I can improvise more often than not, just because it kind of because more often than not as well, it's like it's rare that we get to location scout on something. So it's like I have to really feel the environment out. If I go in there with a plan, I'm like, if I shift it too much, I'm like, are we going to revisit this the right way? And I'm like, no. So
Yeah.
go in there with a fresh perspective. When it comes to complex concepts and everything though, like we're starting to get more action stuff to flow into the region and everything. Those are the kind of things that I have to play off of. Either I internalize it and then I'm just like putting out shot lists, or I'm thinking of different ideas and whatnot to like previs on those, and I'm like, okay, so this is going to tie together perfectly with this. And then those are also times where we have to see the environment, because if we don't, we're like, how are we going to match this stuff correctly and everything. So that's another big factor is in those moments specifically though are when I probably plan the most is when it comes to action, anything that has to be pre-staged to like get the flow of the environment down and everything. Cause we're moving into the era where there's moments where sticking to that sticking to that statement of like what would be my preference more sticks versus movement is I'm kind of the opposite effect of what most people want to go into. I'm like the number one stationary guy that people go to because I'm the one that learned to master that first. And everybody else is like, we like it, but we're not the biggest fan. We want to stick with moving. I'm like, I want to do that too. I'm in that mode where I know how important it is when you need to get stable moments. Some people overlook it. Like we had like what was it? We had a project, speaking to this because it's coming up soon, Jason Voorhees Nightmares, where they I was reminded a couple months ago when they did some retakes and whatnot for a certain sequence in there. I see the video posted to social media later. They're like, oh, they're doing some stuff with some chain effects, and I was like, and that's why he warned you that you needed those still shots because if you didn't do it, he wasn't going to be able to comp them correctly. So I was
Yeah.
like, so it's one of those things of like, I like people's perspective for wanting to do movement. I want to do it more myself, and I'm fortunate that I've been able with certain projects to really experiment with that more, especially having a rig dedicated to that now. So it's made my life a million times easier instead of having to put the giant 50-pound rig on or something. I literally just get to handheld the thing and I'm like, hey, we've elevated in the world.
Do you have two of the same cameras then? What camera are you shooting with?
So the stationary camera, after experimenting back and forth, the stationary camera now is the Blackmagic Pixel 6K. So, which
Wow.
I was very fortunate on. This is something I'll speak to and whatnot. Is people that underestimate the open market or like rental houses and whatnot that sell on stuff. I encourage you guys to look at that because you will be surprised some of the deals you will get out of that more than you would have ever expected. Like,
Really?
yeah, like to put it this way, it's like I lucked out on getting effectively that camera for 50% of its like original worth right now.
Wow.
It was crazy. I was like, well,
That's a good tip.
yeah, we did, yeah, we did that. So we're accomplishing things. So that's the new stationary setup, and then the original camera that I was using for everything, the Blackmagic 6K Pro, that's gone to handheld because surprisingly the wider body is more versatile than the length body going the other way on the horizontal axis, which is really interesting. I
Hmm.
thought I thought gimbal wise it was going to adapt to that, but I was like, nope, I guess not. I guess we can go to this. So, and that's always
Interesting.
another thing is always just be experimenting with gear that you have and everything and see what's going to work best for you and like run and gun situations or the very like intentional focus moments that you need it for other stuff. So that's I'm always experimenting with different ideas, always trying to build new rigs and whatnot people might not have thought of, and I'm like, we're gonna nail this.
Yeah. Is there a go-to lens that you love?
The go-to lens that I use on the stationary consistently and hopefully soon it's going to be back to its original capacity because of with the Pixis finally going to full frame. It's a very different world when you go into full frame you're because you have to learn that the lenses don't necessarily change with that though. So you have to deal with vignetting on the crop sensors and everything. You're like, dang, I got to get the right tools for that again. So then it's
So
like
is the Pixis a full frame or
it
crop?
is a full frame.
Okay. And
So
then the other camera is what? Is the other one full?
the other one's crop because it was
Okay.
that original era. So I know they made a full frame version of it. They kind of did like a unique thing with the Pocket series and everything when they elevated it and basically saying, yeah, we're going to give you full frame and everything like that, but we're going to take away those ND filters in the camera, and then you have to get all those adapters again. Everybody's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
no.
Yep. That's it's expensive.
Yep. It's like you just got to always be hunting.
So Matt, you have nearly 10 projects in dropping between 2026 and 2027. Are you building an empire or chasing something? Like what's your biggest end goal?
So the biggest end goal at the end of the day is circling back to the company part is I really want at the end of the day, everybody has their wild dreams for what they want to accomplish in their career and whatnot. I've seen my final end game role is like in simple terms, I want to see Media Outlet 365 Entertainment as like a beacon hub of Washington, basically. I've literally envisioned it multiple times, and I'm like, I want to see the logo in full scale on the tallest building in Seattle.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen that and I've envisioned and sketching it out multiple times. I'm like, I want to be in that big giant Smith Tower, the Columbia Tower, one of the two of those, and then I want to keep scaling from there. I want to be having clients that are open to offering ideas and everything like that, and us having teams ready to go out there and make magic happen in whatever fashion, photography, video, cinematography, full scale productions where everybody's learning and being integrated within this community. Because me and a handful of people that I've worked with for a while, and then some new faces that I've talked to in the past that are new to almost being like full time partnerships effectively this year. We all see this vision that with the projects we're doing this year, we're like, if we hit the market the way that we intend when the final products are said and done, we're like, we want Seattle to be put back on the map this year. Like
Yeah.
we're very tentative about doing this with, either low budgets or next to none to show high capital investors and whatnot. Like you're missing out on a really big corner of the entertainment industry with everything that's happening in Hollywood right now. Like if you're looking for an outlet, we've got more people up here than you could ever imagine.
That's, that was one of my questions is your perspective, like with the rise of indie production pipelines, do you think the traditional film industry is becoming irrelevant?
I almost want to say that it is because I look at this both from like me doing the research and the entertainment industry and me being a fan of film and TV in general. And I look at this scaling thing, even though I try not to look at it too much because it goes up and down every which way you can imagine, is my clear, consistent thing that I found recently, though, is, and it speaks to this thing that a lot of celebrities, surprisingly, that I've seen speak to this. They're like, if we had gone back like 10 years ago, you'd have like famous people being like, no, the death of cinema could never happen. Streaming services could never possibly be your final destination. They're not ever going to make it to the award shows. Meanwhile, you fast forward to present day, what did the number two category at the Oscars was streaming platforms. It was insane. We were like, that says it right there. You
Yeah.
didn't think that was ever going to happen, but now, unfortunately, that's the route that we're going. I mean, we want to keep cinema alive more than anything, but we're having to play ball to these other things and adapt and make our new methods as well to say, what's the perfect combination of getting in the middle, especially with, you know, the biggest profit that people were earning, I mean, hell, what, even like 7 years ago, maybe, was they lucked out on the fact that you could get residuals and whatnot and all that from physical media. But now you have to play to the digital platforms and say, what percentage of the money is going to come my way, though? And what can we shelter out to start to get into other things that isn't going to conflict with, ironically as it is, the tech corporation is starting to come in and buy out everything.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
Man. So we talked about talked about Jason Voorhees' Nightmares, which is a very iconic fan productive universe that you guys made.
Oh,
What
yeah.
made you willing to step into that?
So my thing of stepping into it is I had a plan from the get-go because surprisingly not a lot of people know, and I only bring it up every so often. It's really funny, is when I had initially stepped onto what's now a CCC Studios production because they evolve now. When I stepped onto their set for the first time, it was the seventh episode of the short films I think that they were doing at the time and building toward the features. And it was the Dusk Till Dawn inspiration basically. And I was like, I was taken right away. I was like, you had this, you had this big burly muscly guy and whatnot, and Peter Anthony, who was just out in the middle of Tacoma at like 2 in the morning, just killing vampires. And you're like, this is amazing. And so, and it's just the community that you built out of that too. Like nobody was intentional about anything to say you can't try this or you can't experiment. He's like, hey, if you got something that you want to do, like I'm all open. I'm just here to capture the magic that you guys are playing for me. And I'm like, well, dang, now he's opening up the door to me a little bit with this. So I'm like, I was playing off those ideas. So that's the initial step, but surprisingly enough, and they didn't even realize it for the longest time too, when the company was all together before certain factions split off and divulged, but they're coming back stronger than ever, was the original partnership and everything, Aaron and Chuck. I actually met them when I was interning on news broadcasts when I was coming out of college, and they were advertising their initial first like publicized feature, The Outrider. And so I talked to them briefly and whatnot, and I was like, oh, this seemed like pretty cool dudes. Fast forward about 3, almost 4 years later, and I'm just like, I've become like their go-to person. I mean, I spoke to it on their podcast a couple days ago, and they say the same thing. It's like, you're just a
Yeah,
really great guy, man. And I'm like,
that's good.
yep, I get that.
That's a good thing. I think in this small industry, when you're working with indie projects, you definitely want to have a reputation of you're easy to get along with, you're a good person, you can
Yep.
communicate, you can articulate your feelings and what you need and want, and then you collaborate. I mean, that's like the key, right? I mean, we've seen the other people on the opposite end of those, and you're like, oh, we're never working with you.
Yep. those
You
are
know?
those are fun times.
So let me ask you this, knowing that you're also like a rock and a skip away from me, what in the Pacific Northwest, how has that shaped your filmmaking voice?
So I would say in the Pacific Northwest, it's like I'm very like there was a time in starting out and whatnot that I held very firm that obviously I don't want to go to Hollywood. I'll visit it and whatnot. There's stuff that comes up, I'll do it, but I could never live there. I could never live in the big hubs. I'm like, I love the tight niche element of the community in the Pacific Northwest too much. Like people, you might get some oddball people every once in a while, but I mean, more often than not, I would almost attribute that to, if anything, from my understanding and what I've witnessed, it might be in the commercial space if people get too overzealous at times. But in the indie world, everybody recognizes each other as like very crucial to making the image happen. Basically, they're like any ideas that are thrown forth, or any concepts that we want to play off of, the stories that we bring to light finally, everybody's like, let's just go out there and do it. And there's a part of me, especially in the recent years, like beforehand, I was like, I'd be doing that all live long day, and I still want to do that. That's the ultimate drive. You could basically say, hey, let's just go pick up, let's pick up a camera, let's find a location, let's go do it like right now. Like I'd love that more than anything in the world. It's the hard truth that nobody loves, and I remain reserved on it to a degree, but I have to be realistic about it and wanting to scale to that higher upper echelon eventually one day. Is we've graduated to the point where if people are gonna start treating this as a full-time thing the way they want, and especially with how big the concepts are getting, I'm like, okay, guys, we need to do our due diligence. We need the planning committee. We need all these other facets and everything for key individuals and whatnot to get the budgets put together, get all this locked down, have these other contracts and everything signed. Nobody likes paperwork, but it's a safety net, especially as we scale up, because everybody's sheltered to that degree where they're just like, but we don't need to do that. And I'm like, well, we do if we're gonna be protected, and we don't want to end up in a down slot one day.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
people overlook it a lot, and I cater to them to such a degree that I'm like, okay, we can run this way, we can run our own processes, but we have to merge the gap, so to speak, in how the processes still work, though, while we try to rewrite and reshape that to what's going to become whatever standard eventually when the time comes. So that's,
Yeah. Let me ask you this. This is kind of going off the rails a little bit, but I want to know, like, is there a standard rate that you charge, or is it case by case situation? Like over the last, if, let's say the following 10 projects, are you charging a rate, or is it more of a pro bono, or is it more of networking? Because I know as an actor, it's very rare do I ever get paid. I just try to show up, commit and collaborate and build that community. But at the state where you're at, because you've made so many different films and you have that skill set, how does that work for you?
so I'm kind of in the like, I'm in the very like gray area right now because I'm in this very unique position right now, which, as I kind of even stated a couple weeks ago on another podcast, I said I was fortunate enough, and I'm standing behind the decision that I was lucky to get out of the full time government job because it just wasn't like, was it a stable?
Congratulations.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like, was it a stable thing? Yes, but was it offering me any additional benefit to where I was trying to go to merge both what could be the full time career and my freelance career? No. And I did all like, this is where, some people call it spur of the moment what I did and whatnot, but other people, if I really explained it to them, they're like, well, no, I think you looked through all your options and there really wasn't. I'm like, yep, there wasn't. I tried every corner angle that you could attack this from to see if I could get into that thing that was the whole point of why I got into it to begin with, and it wasn't going to budge anytime soon with the current status of the world, shall we say? But
Yeah.
um, so I'm in that area now where since I got out of that, I'm trying my best to like kind of offset that to a degree and whatnot to maybe get into something part time. But I really want to channel this because I'm taking the biggest step to make this as full time a thing as I can. So because I was kind of in the crosshairs though when I got out of it because there were projects that I was already brought onto as like a freelance thing for like pro bono and stuff. I've made enough connections and I've been genuine with people where their initial goal was to start as just a freelance thing and like get the publicity out there and whatnot, and then get other projects in the pipeline to start getting people paid. But they've gone above and beyond just because of my tenacity to basically say, you've sheltered way more out than we could have expected for this. So I know it wasn't the original plan, but more often than not right now, most of the projects that started as pro bono and might have given some like transactional fees or something like that to offset travel and stuff, they've said, we're going to get you paid, man. Like you're going to get paid for it because you've exceeded far beyond what we thought you even intended coming onto this to begin with. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to that because I need it more than ever right now.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, it's the whole starving artist thing. It's like I
Yeah.
know just from experience, like I've always had a day job because I got a family and I got kids and you got to provide. But
Mm,
I know there's another filmmaker that I'm not going to name names, but
yeah.
he and I both work at the same company at one point. We got laid off, and I mean, the dream's always been production, right? So he attached himself to a production house, and but the pay is just not as stable. It's not as stable to live off of. But and now he's thinking about going back to the corporate world, and it's kind of like it's like you got to balance. You got to find that like what works, what can allow you to continue to be that artist and live that dream, but at the same time be able to eat, pay
Yeah.
rent. You know.
Yep. And that's the big thing that I'm like weaving my way through, and that's part of the reason why I've like told myself I'm like, okay, I want to pursue this as the full-time thing. If I have to, like, that's why I only settle for like a part-time thing because I'm like I'm in the midst of it now. I'm like, if I if I really keep going with it, I know something can happen. If the money's not there consistently all the time, having something that I can go into like 2 to 3 days a week, I'm not opposed to that because
Yeah.
rarely does anybody have something consistently happening like all 7 days of the week and film more often than not. It doesn't happen. So we're like, so anything that can offset that to a degree, but still give you the reward of being able to do what you love at the end of the day, I'm like, I can settle for that. But the thing that has to be concrete about whatever the part-time thing is as well is I've told myself it has to legitimately be doing something. I can't just I'm very somebody that's can't just like sit there and wait on something to come my way. I'm like, if that's the case, then it has to give me the benefit to be and the tools necessary to be able to do this other thing if I'm killing time, which is another reason why it didn't work out for the whole government aspect. Because that for a time it was working super well, where it was like, okay, nothing was happening, I can get all this
Yeah,
done. But
yeah.
then it
I
gets to a
remember.
point, yeah, it gets to a point where the position that I was in was starting to like weave its way around, and like bigger management was like, well, you got to go down there and do this. I'm like, do what? We sat down there all day. I'm like, I could have done a billion things back up there. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
So it's like you say, it's finding the balance and like recognizing like your worth in whatever you're doing as well. If it's not the thing that you're fortunate enough to be doing all the time, like it has to be benefiting you to such a degree along with the paycheck. Like you have to appreciate something that you're doing there, because if you don't, things will just drag on. And you're like, what am I doing, guys?
yeah. Wasted time.
Yeah.
Speaking of time, now you've been in the industry, the film industry, 11 to 15 years. When you first started out your journey, a lot of people have assumptions of what they're gonna get into, what they're gonna learn. Is there anything that you assumed that you got wrong later in life? You're like, oh, I guess it never was like that.
The biggest thing, and I think this is what a lot of people can speak to, is business and marketing. Business and marketing. It's the biggest underslung thing that not a lot of people tell you about, that when you do your own self-discovery on it, you're like,
Yeah,
you're like, yeah. So, but when you learn to overcome that though, and you start to develop the skill sets necessary in order to pursue it, you have people that are experts on it, or you've had people that know their way around, if not the industry, they know it in other businesses and everything like that. You're like, okay, I can take a couple pages from that, and we could see how we can shape it up to make it work within our environment. So I look at everything that I do in that regard as opportunity in like every which sense, because I mean, people come to me, and it's actually a really funny thing. And speaking to like what people know me for as far as roles, sometimes like I had somebody, well, I had a few somebodies, but one in particular reached out and was like, hey, I wanted to reach out because I wanted to bring you on board as like a first AD or something like that, because I think you've got like real potential for it. I'm like, well, I appreciate that. That is not what I'm known for, though. I was like, I'm fortunate that I learned the skill sets from people that are there, and I have to shelter them into like the logistics background for this to make sure that productions can happen, because uh, this is actually a really important note that I give to people in the indie world going forward, especially now, and it gets overlooked all the time. And it's good that people are starting to change their tune on this. I said, production people, as far as your cinematographer, your gaffer, your sound people, those are all important, but the absolute, like, it's not a necessity, it needs to be a requirement, because it's going to make things go way smoother. The two most important people, and you can include the third if you have the resource to do it, but the two most important people, always have that first assistant director and always have that script supervisor, because that is going to change your world when you're on production that day, and you don't have to split your brain in two directions saying, oh, we got some budgeting that we got to worry about here, we got to worry about the time in. You're like, but then it pulls you from creativity, versus you don't have them there and you're the creatives, you're locked in, you're like, oh yeah, we got to do this, this, and this, and you just miraculously kind of have the thought in the back of your head, and you're like, oh, that was like 8 hours, and you're like, damn it.
yeah.
So Always have those two, and then if you can get the third, depending on your media archive and your storage for whatever equipment you're using, your digital imaging technician will be a lifesaver for effectively, as I say in the short term, your editor will thank you.
Right.
The editor will
Yeah.
be like, thank you for saving my life from the next like week of organizing.
Just talking about time and production, the thing that popped in my head was lighting. And like, are you like even Jason Voorhees was a lot of that was filmed outside. Are you guys fighting the light? Are you guys timing this out, or are you guys just bringing in lights to light up your scenes?
So there are moments in some of the darker interior stuff where we did use artificial light just for the nature of like we didn't want as grainy an effect in some instances. But more often than not, it was a lot of natural light because I think about a good 70 to 75% of the film is uh, filmed on like a giant like outdoor 30 acres of land in Roy in the middle of nowhere, and it's just I mean it was wild. Like it was like
Yeah.
you would get out there and you'd be like this is unreal. And so it gets really uncontrollable as well when they have their plan going into it of like we might luck out on some things, we might get this stuff here. The biggest element that is there's no statement that could top this because it was unreal. I almost didn't even know if I was on the right set at one point because it was so crazy to me. I show up there a couple hours later or whatnot because we like wrapped up later the day before, and I was so out of it, and I'm like, okay, now I got to get on the road and I got to get out there. I get there and I was so convinced. I'm like, is this the right set? Because I see all these bikers here and everything like that. And I'm like, wait, what in the world? And then they tell me, I'm like, no, 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 this is the right set and everything. I hear somebody off kilter whisper at the end of the day because they were like, we thought we were going to get like maybe 15 or 20 bikers to show up out here. Somebody like whispers off in the corner, there's like 86 bikers here. I was like, wait, what the? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And they were
That's
like,
awesome.
nope, this is nuts. And I'm like, all right, I guess we're going to experiment with this. We're going to experiment with like 300 people on set today. Let's see what this looks like.
That's a full production right there. Are you
Yeah.
guys are you running sound through the camera? And I guess let me ask you, I've seen Aaron Carlson in the background and behind the scenes, and he's
Yeah.
always handheld. Are you guys doing dual cameras? Are you running yours and he's running his?
So the answer to that is yes. Like I run independent coverage. He runs independent coverage at times because he's also acting in the movie as whatnot because he likes to, if anybody knows Aaron, he loves to be the self-sacrificial
Right.
hero of everything. So I'll do it sometimes, but the more complex answer to this, and this is going to get a lot of people when they see this in the credits, especially, they're going to be blown away by this. Effectively, in total, by the time that this wrapped production and whatnot, there were 9 DPs on this film,
Holy smokes. Yeah.
and the most amount I think we had on one day was probably 6.
All
So
running simultaneously?
yeah.
Oh wow.
It
Okay.
was if there's any production that like literally it's a foregone conclusion that any set you try that on other than his, it probably will not happen.
Yeah.
We're fortunate enough that we have such a bond with each other and he likes to let people run off and try different ideas as well that we made it work for what it was. And he because his thing is like there's never too much coverage, guys. I'm like, well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong,
Right.
sir. At the
That's
end of the
crazy.
day,
What you guys are shooting different scenes then, or are you guys shooting the same scene from different
there's
angles?
there's times where we might have what is it? There's times where we might have like 3, if not 4 cameras on one setup, but it has to be like really we have to really play off the angle and see if it's going to blend correctly. So there were a couple times where we did that. Other times we had splinter teams and whatnot going off and getting extra coverage for other scenes. Like it just saved that much more time in the day and it saved more time on the property. So that was epic. Like
Yeah.
some ideas get come up with on the spot and whatnot. Like our uh, our good buddy Ryan Smith and his favorite thing in the world, explosions.
Right. Yeah.
So he just has a ball with that. He's like, Eric just tells him, it's like, go do what Ryan Smith does. You go do your thing, Ryan. Like, I trust you. And I'm like, good. That's what we need to hear today.
So, Matt, you've worked on a variety of different productions and different crews. Is there anything that used to surprise you that no longer does?
I think the thing that doesn't surprise me anymore, and over the last year especially, because I kind of spoke on it earlier, is I kept thinking with getting a lot more camera people or the more crew that I would get on set, it would become like there'd be like either this very dynamic competition or like confrontational thing that might come up every so often. But the more projects I do, and as we like scale up on certain productions over others, I've grown to realize I'm like, no, everybody just wants to like have their time in the sun to enjoy. And I'm like, and I've learned to step back enough to be like, hey, I mean, you want to try this and whatnot, I'm not opposed to it. I've elevated to a point where, especially in having my having like a dedicated like main camera team and everything, whether I get an additional camera up or I have my first or second AC, which is almost like a given now, thankfully. I'm elevating to a point like if we have the time and we're not worried about any sort of constraint or anything like that, I've I've literally broadened my horizons. Like there's times where I've literally let the first and the second AC like pick up the camera because I'm like, I know you guys want to experiment with this. They're like, yeah, we're totally down for it. I'm like, all right, well, here we go. You get to make some magic. Get over here. And they're like,
Yeah,
what? And I'm like, yep, because I got to give you guys some other tools for that lucrative career down the road if you get onto other productions. And they're like, well, fantastic. And I'm like, gotcha.
that's awesome. That's a good mentorship program right there.
Yeah.
What so with the amount of volume and all of your films and everything that you've created, what's the one project that you want to be remembered for?
I feel like this is always going to be fluctuating and changing right now, but because of how much we're scaling this right now, because as you speak to Aaron and everything, as much as he promotes this, I we're definitely going down in history as like Nightmares is definitely going to be like the top like it's the first film on the upper echelon of films coming out of this year going into next year that's going to open the floodgates that we've
Yeah.
seen. He's being reserved about certain things of the final cut, but we've seen runs of the movie and whatnot, the what is it, the full 2 hours and like 15 minutes, and
Holy
it's it's wild to say the least. Like some of the color stills that we see and whatnot for the final grade, the sound design and whatnot. Uh, Thanks to Mr. Kelvin Galoza, who's a really recognizable name both in Hollywood and out here. We've made something special beyond any expectation that we would have ever had for this region with that movie. it was it
yeah.
was a it was a very fun ride for 10 weeks when we kept going out to Roy. It was
That's
wild.
amazing. So what's happening in the future, Matt? What's going on?
So the thing that's coming up on the list and whatnot that we're getting wrapped up on the callbacks for, which we just did one earlier today and everything. Mafia is going to be a really good TV pilot that we're really sticking to this statement now, thanks to another producer friend of ours, Neil, in saying it's not an if this lands now, it's a when this lands now, because we've looked through the story, we've gone through so much talent and whatnot through this entire cycle to put this in perspective for people and how hard this was. 105 auditions.
Holy smokes.
It was yeah. It was quite a ride. And now we're getting into the finalists for the chemistry tests and whatnot because we really want to harken home both the aesthetic for the appearances of the people as well as the raw talent and emotion that everybody brings to these roles. We're looking back at the tapes and whatnot we record, and we're on location on the day. We're just so locked in. We're like, I can't even believe how unreal this is. This is crazy. These guys are
Was-
way beyond.
Is that the callbacks where you're at right now?
Oh yeah, it was good.
Okay.
it was a good day for it. So we made it the most realistic thing possible, whatnot. Everything from the guns to the liquor to the it was it
Nice.
was hilarious. So that's coming up. Another big project that's on the horizon and actually has a event to promote tonight. Starlight in View by Miss Lilia Ahern. She's got her single mingles event and whatnot tonight at or this evening at 3 and going to like 6 or 7. So that'll be pretty phenomenal. So everybody
That's
can
right.
enjoy. Everybody can
I forgot
enjoy.
it was tonight.
Yeah, everybody can enjoy coming out to that. A good a couple of friends and whatnot are going to be part of the auction program along with yours truly.
Yes.
So that'll be quite something to see how that turns out to be by the end of the night.
What's the
Um,
auction for? Is it like a what is it for?
I want to say it's
Estates?
more or less just to yeah, it's I would say it's more like dating and like just getting people to know each other and everything because
Okay.
she's very adamant about people like similar to her love story, like just having that like love at first sight thing. So we're playing into it because we're catering to the idea. I'm like, this is the story. Like, this is what the story is.
Live
So
it.
yeah, we're gonna live it now. So yeah, we're doing that. Another really big project that's going to come up by the end of summer for me and really good business partner Randall Powell for Laugh Now Cry Later Productions. He's joining the club and he's getting his first feature in August with Blood Money. So
Nice.
he's diving into that head first. He originally was going to start as a proof of concept, but then he was like, I see what all you guys are doing. And I was like, you know, I'm going to make this feature. I'm going to do the feature right now, guys. And I'm like, good.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear. So we're really committed to that. There's going to be a lot of star talent in that and everything to that nature. We're tackling some very heavy subject matter and everything, so people are going to be really prepared for that. But I mean, it's lucrative to the story. It's to show you the human nature element of the darker side of the world. So that'll be really unique in its exploration of the remembrance, so to speak, of the main characters is going to be really
Mhm.
interesting.
Let me ask you your perspective on some when it comes to films, because are you more tuned to make features or are you more tuned to make shorts? And then what's the reason why go with a feature versus a short?
So I think the thing that I found recently that more people are trying to do because they want to hit the market and they're starting to recognize similar to how I did like shorts are really good if you want to get your name out there, but it's really hard to sell shorts on the market. Like you have to really like it either needs to be like such a stellar masterpiece that it needs to go to a top festival with the promise of giving something more, or it needs to be so stand out that whoever like a top investor is out of the festival circuit or the online market for wherever you send it is like so moved by it that they're like, okay, we're gonna find some place to put this and whatnot because it's that standout. So I want to do that because I'm always about getting my name out there and everything, especially if they're quick concepts that we can just experiment and have fun with. The feature market has been a unique thing because it's opened the doors to basically say you can hit it from we're fortunate enough that we have the people to just go out and do it sometimes with maybe getting money down the road when we pursue that, even though we want to do it beforehand. That's what I'm trying to educate people on more and more because sometimes we get into the middle of production and they're like, yeah, but now we have to put money into this, don't we? I'm like, yeah, you do. So now
Yeah.
you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna make that happen in a quick turnaround so that we don't take a long extended pause. Um, so there's ways of doing it that way, and then what more people caught on to, and I think it was Aaron that probably said this best, and I never really thought of it this way, but I like the idea behind it is he's not a fan of doing shorts. So the way that he's recognized doing it is calling them proof of concepts. So if they're like 15 to 20-minute things and whatnot, he calls them proof of concepts because he's like, I want to test the open waters with the public, see what they respond to most as far as ideas. And if that idea hits, he's like, now we're going to do that as a feature. So I'm
Yeah.
like, that's kind of where I've adapted into testing those waters and saying, I see the resilience behind that, and I do like that idea more because it it basically puts you in a position of saying, okay, we don't have to ride this as an all or nothing now. We give them a fraction of something. We've tested it. It's hit. They're asking for more. And then that tells us in our minds, oh, now we can go do it. Oh, shoot. Or
Right.
it doesn't hit. They're like, nah, I don't think it hit. I think that was about as far as the story could go and whatnot. You're like, you leave it at that. And if somebody hits on it or if it goes to any other open source market or something like that and it gets some money out of it, great. But at least you can still be proud that you gave it a try to like keep testing the waters. Because I mean, at the end of the day, film is experimentation above all else.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. McKinney, thank you so much for coming on the Down and Cut. Any last words?
Be sure to keep following the journey of all the films out here in the Pacific Northwest, people. It's a rapidly growing market. You're going to start seeing some of the craziest things that you never thought were going to happen here for probably the next like 2 decades, and they're right around the corner now. So you get to have fun with all these films and whatnot that are coming. We're going to start doing a whole lot more events and everything to really start bringing more people together and whatnot because me and a lot of other people have started realizing, man, there's so many more people that we don't know up here that we want the opportunity to meet. And so we've said, let's just get them to an event. Come on, we're just going to put together events and we're going to keep doing this and we're going to keep finding more people to put in films.
Yeah.
So we enjoy it.
Well, follow Matt on social media. We'll put all the links in the show notes. And thank you, Matt. Have a great day.
All
We'll see you in
right.
the next episode.